Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the story of Princess Cruises' newest ship, the Sun Princess. Seriously, since this thing launched, it has become one of the most talked about, most polarizing ships out there. People either seem to absolutely love it or, well, they don't. So we're going to break down exactly why.
Okay, this quote from an expert reviewer really just nails it. A rip-the-band-aid-off approach. See, for decades, Princess was famous for being consistent, reliable, you knew what you were getting. This ship is a total reinvention, and that kind of bold move was bound to create a huge clash between the old Princess and the new.
So to really get what's going on here, you have to understand just how different this ship is. We're not talking about a few new restaurants or a fresh coat of paint. This is a whole new blueprint from the ground up. For almost 30 years, Princess had this winning formula, right? You'd get on any ship and feel like you were coming home. It was familiar. Well, the Sun Princess takes that whole idea and just throws it right overboard. And you gotta ask, why the huge change? Well, the cruise world is super competitive, and everyone is chasing younger travelers. This ship feels like Princess's attempt to be hipper and cooler, to compete with those big, flashy resort-style ships. Okay, so let's start with the good stuff, because when you make a big pivot like this, you're bound to introduce some brand new features that people absolutely fall in love with. And they really did bring in some game changers. The dome, for example, is this incredible glass-enclosed space that's just beautiful. And pretty much everyone agrees the new cabins are a massive improvement. Then you've got unique things like Spellbound by Magic Castle. These are some serious wins for the cruise line, no doubt about it. And for a lot of passengers, it all adds up to a huge success. I mean, you see reviews like this one, just glowing. They're talking about a beautiful ship, a fantastic crew, an unforgettable vacation. For them, the new direction totally worked. But, and you knew there was a but coming, that's not the whole story. Not even close. Because for every rave review you can find another one that tells a completely different story. A story of frustration and, honestly, a lot of confusion. Right? It makes you wonder, with all this cool new stuff, what could possibly be the problem? Well, this is where things get really interesting. Because the very innovation that gets some people excited is the exact same thing that's causing major headaches for others. It all kind of boils down to a few key complaints. First up, the layout. People just find it confusing, illogical, they're getting lost all the time. But the really big problem seems to be the crowds. It feels like a lot of the public spaces just weren't built to handle over 4,300 people. The result, constant bottlenecks, congestion, and lines. Lines for coffee, lines for bars, lines for just about everything. And this right here, this is the perfect symbol of the whole culture clash. The piazza, the heart of the ship. On old Princess ships, it was a calm, quiet, relaxing space. On the Sun Princess, it's a nonstop, high-energy party zone. We're talking Zumba classes, loud game shows, karaoke, and for those longtime fans, that shift is a massive shock to the system. So what you've got are these design choices that have created two completely separate cruise experiences. It's almost like there are two different ships sailing inside the same body, and the one you experience depends entirely on who you ask. And nowhere is that divide clearer than when people talk about the service from the crew. This seems to be a huge point of disagreement. On the one hand, you have passengers who say the service was the best they have ever had. Period. They're describing a cheerful, hardworking crew that just went above and beyond. And then you get this, the absolute polar opposite. People saying the crew seemed overworked, unfriendly, like they just didn't care. How can two people on the very same cruise have such drastically different experiences with the staff? It's the exact same story when we get to one of the most important parts of any cruise, the food. So you have some guests for whom the dining was a true highlight, especially in the specialty restaurants you pay extra for. They're calling the food amazing, a culinary adventure. But then you hear from people who mostly ate in the main dining room, and they describe the food as, well, just bad, repetitive, lacking taste, chewy pasta. It's just wild. Two people on the same ship having completely different culinary journeys. And finally, let's talk about the overall vibe of the ship itself. And you guessed it, this is another area where people are deeply, deeply divided. There's one perspective that says the ship is absolutely beautiful, breathtaking even, a perfect mix of modern style and elegance, and a real step forward for the Princess brand. And then there's the other side. People who feel it's crowded, noisy, and has lost all the classic elegance that Princess was known for. Some even compare it to more of a budget cruise line.
Wow.
So, after hearing all these wildly different takes, the big question is, how in the world do you decide if this ship is the right one for your next vacation? Well, when you lay it all out like this, it really just comes down to a trade-off. It's pretty clear. You get these modern, innovative features and a really lively, high-energy atmosphere, but the price you might pay for that is a confusing layout, some overcrowded spaces, and an experience that's totally different from that classic Princess formula. Ultimately, the Sun Princess forces every cruiser to ask themselves a fundamental question. What do you really value on vacation? Are you looking for the cutting-edge thrills and a nonstop party, or do you want that familiar comfort and quiet relaxation? There's no right or wrong answer here, but the choice is entirely yours.